and State, you can correct me if I'm wrong, was the motion in limine in regards to any of their witnesses that have priors. Is that correct?
That is a part of it, yes, Judge.
So I'll just ask that everyone approach on that. Because I won't know if it's relevant. I won't know any issues until I actually hear it as well.
And Judge, we are planning to go into some drug history involving one of our witnesses. So obviously the defense won't have to approach on that. That's with Mark Hernandez.
Which case? What? Not the pattern thinking. Oh, something fine. What is which person?
There's only a copy of the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. It doesn't have a file stamp. Do you want me to see if I can?
No, it's fine.
Okay. This will be filed, I believe, back in February.
It's just it's still combination.
Yeah, that can be anything. Glad I'm missing it.
Judge, I don't have any objection. I'll certainly, particularly in regard to the officers, and I'll approach on any witnesses. I would ask at this time if the state has made any agreements with any witnesses to testify, that they inform me of that now.
And we have not, Judge.
Okay. All right. Are both parties ready to proceed and have the jurors come in?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Oh, and everyone, please remember that your microphone's at the table, the one that's standing up. If you want that to be off, make sure you have to hold the button down. You can't let it up.
Jury,
The green light on or off?
It will be off. So if you tap it, tap the microphone when you hold it down. You have to hold it down if you don't want it to pick up anything that's being said at your table.
You have to.
Mr. Mauer, the state forgets that all the
I can't just turn it off.
something to take it down. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have you raise your right hand for me. I know that you took an oath downstairs, but the oath that I'm going to give you relates specifically to this case. So if everyone could raise your right hand for me. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm in the case of the state of Texas against Brandon Guzman, you will a true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand. And I know some of you may have seen on television that when attorneys object, they stand. In this courtroom, I have them sit because it's easier for the court reporter to hear if everybody is seated. So they know that I don't take that as a sign of disrespect, and I don't want you all to be wondering or take that as a sign of disrespect either. State, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, State. Yes.
Thank you, Your True bill of indictment in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Bexar County, state of Texas, duly organized and impaneled and sworn as such at the September term AD 2019 of the Judicial District Court of said county and said court at said term, do present and to said court that in the county and state aforesaid and anterior to the presentment of this indictment, count 1, paragraph A, on or about the 29th day of July 2019, Brandon Guzman did intentionally and knowingly cause the death of an individual, namely Justin Larvey, hereinafter referred to as the complainant, by shooting the complainant with a deadly weapon, namely a firearm. Paragraph B, and on or about the 29th day of July 2019, Brandon Guzman, with the intent to cause serious bodily injury to an individual, namely Justin Larvey, hereinafter referred to as the complainant, did commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that caused the death of Justin Justin Larvey, by shooting the complainant with a deadly weapon, namely a firearm, against the peace and dignity of the state, signed foreman of the grand jury.
Mr. Guzman, to count one, paragraph A and B, how do you plead?
Guilty.
All right, you may be seated. Can I have both parties approach just briefly, please? All right, State, are you ready to proceed with opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court?
Yes.
During this trial, you're going to learn that on July 29th, 2019, Brandon Guzman murdered Justin Larvey. You're actually going to learn that there was almost a second murder that happened. Mark Hernandez, Justin's roommate. Earlier that morning, he had gone to Gold's Gym, he was going to work out. So he left his apartment, went in and worked out, and when he came home, he found Mr. Guzman in his apartment, going through his closet, one of the closets. At that time, Justin was already shot. Was already bleeding out in the bathroom, possibly dead at that point. Mr. Guzman was rifling through their property. And so they get into an altercation. Mr. Hernandez finds a man wearing a mask. This is 2019. This is before COVID. He had his face covered up with some kind of shirts, some kind of bandana, something covering his face as he was rummaging through the apartment of the man he had just shot. So Mr. Hernandez confronts him. Mr. Guzman pulls out a gun. And they're fighting over it. Mr. Hernandez gets shot, actually grazes his neck, splits it open. And then as they're fighting, and of course, Mr. Hernandez is tired after his workout, as they're fighting, Mr. Hernandez goes towards the kitchen to try to get his own weapon, try to get a knife or something to defend himself. And he gets shot again. And this shot comes through his back, comes out his armpit. And Mr. Guzman runs out. And the reason why we know it's Mr. Guzman is because Mr. Hernandez actually gets the shirt, the covering off of his face and recognizes it. He knew who Mr. Guzman was from prior dealings. Now, Mr. Hernandez is not squeaky clean. We're not going to try to say that he is. You're going to learn that he's been to prison for drug dealing for a 1 to 4 gram case. And he was actually on parole at the time this happened. He actually had a GPS monitor on his leg because he was on parole at the time this happened. And he knew Mr. Guzman from before he went to prison. And you're going to hear that after he got out, which was actually pretty recently before this shooting happened, after he got out, Mr. Guzman had actually reached out through a mutual acquaintance and got in touch with him again. So he knew who Mr. Guzman was. And you'll hear that Mr. Guzman had a very unique hairstyle at the time that this happened. So he, even before the face covering came off, probably had a good idea who it was. And you're going to learn that after Mr. Hernandez got shot twice by Mr. Guzman ran out of the apartment, left the scene, left Justin Larvey to die, left Mark Hernandez to stumble out of the apartment, where neighbors who had heard the gunshots arrived to help, where officers arrived to help. He was taken to the hospital and he recovered. He survived. We're not here on a double murder. And he knew who he was. He knew Mr. Guzman as Gibby, a nickname. And you're going to learn that that is a name that Mr. Guzman went by. And Mr. Hernandez at the hospital identified a photo of Gibby, of Justin Guzman. Oh, I'm sorry, Brandon Guzman. Of Brandon Guzman as the person who shot him. The person who was in his apartment having just shot Justin Larrabee. Now, the lead detective on this case, Detective Juarez, develops information based on Mr. Hernandez's identification. And so the next day they go out, they get information about where Mr. Guzman is. And they get information on the vehicle that he's associated with. It's pretty distinctive. It's a maroon colored car with black rims and some damage to the rear fender, to the rear bumper. You're going to learn that that vehicle was actually captured on a city of San Antonio camera right after the murder. So Mr. Guzman is fleeing the scene. And that is the vehicle that he's apprehended in the day after the murder. His girlfriend, Miranda, is driving it. He is the front passenger, and there's a third man in the back seat. And you're going to learn that when they take him into custody for this warrant for murder, there's a key that's found in the vehicle, key to a Mercedes. And the key belongs to Mark Hernandez. Because Mark's going to testify that after he got shot twice by Mr. Guzman, Mr. Guzman took his phone and his key, which has his Gold's Gym tag on it, where he was just at that morning, and he ran out of the apartment. And at the end of this trial, we don't believe that you'll have any doubt, let alone a reasonable doubt, that Mr. Guzman committed the offense of murder in taking the life of Justin Larrabee. Thank you.
Right, defense.
A reserve, Judge.
All right, state, call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Michael Kilmer.
If you'll take a seat here, please. Would you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, if you'll have a seat, make sure you keep your voice up so the court reporter and the jurors could hear.
Yes,
If you
ma'am.
could state your name for the record and spell it, please.
My name is Michael Kilmer, Kilmer.
State.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, what do you do for a living?
I'm a San Antonio police officer,
How long have you been with SAPD?
33 years.
What is your job at, or you said police officer, what are your duties as a police officer with SAPD?
I am currently assigned to the West Safe Detail, which is the community service unit.
What does that mean?
Basically, we are the liaison between the department and the community in general.
Was that always your assignment?
No, sir.
What was your previous assignment?
I was on patrol for 18 years.
What are your duties as a patrol officer?
Basically, we respond to calls for service. Anything that the public needs, we try to help them out with.
What kind of calls might those be?
They can be anything from family violence, accidents, disturbances, you name it.
How do you get assigned to a case or to a call?
The dispatcher puts you on the case, sir.
What kind of training do you receive to become an SAPD officer?
Well, when I went through, it was 7 months of training at the San Antonio Police Academy.
What do you learn at the academy?
Penal code, arrest, search and seizure, traffic law, family code, education code, PT, defensive driving, pursuit driving, shooting, tactics,
You said PT. What is PT?
physical training.
So you said you were a patrol officer for around 18 years?
Yes, sir.
Were you a patrol officer back on July 29th of 2019?
No, sir. I was a safe officer at that time.
What is the safe officer? Is that the community?
That's the community service officer, sir. Yes.
What kind of duties do you have related to calls for service as a community? Whatever you were.
When I'm not doing community service work, then I am supposed to be responding to calls for service as a patrolman does to assist patrol.
And on July 29th of 2019, did you in fact get called out for service?
Yes, sir, I did.
So you were on duty that day?
Yes, sir, I was.
And were you a certified peace officer on that day?
Yes, sir, I was.
What happened around 9:40 that morning?
Approximately 9:40 on that date, we received a call to the 300 block of South Acme for a shooting in progress with a hit.
Did you respond to that location?
Yes, sir, I did.
That address that you mentioned, is that in Bexar County, Texas?
Yes, sir, it is.
And is it within the city of San Antonio?
Yes, sir, it is.
Do you know about how long it took you to get there?
From where I was coming from, my service district, it probably took me 5-10 minutes, maybe.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as exhibit numbers 1 and 2. Do you recognize these?
Yes, sir, I do.
Generally speaking, what are they?
They are maps of the area of the shooting.
Okay. And do these maps fairly and accurately depict the area?
Yes, sir, they do.
And the labels, the street names and such, are those accurate?
They appear to be, yes, sir.
And to your knowledge, have these been altered in any way from an accurate map?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Excuse me, just 1 second. Could you tell him? I promise you, there are signs on the door that say quiet. We're in jury trial. All right, you may continue.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time we offer exhibits 1 and 2 for all purposes, tendering defense counsel.
I have no objections.
All right, states exhibit number 1 and number 2 are admitted without objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we publish?
Yes,
May I use the well, Judge?
yes.
All right, we're looking now at what's been entered as state exhibit 1. What are we looking at here, officer?
This is the map of Wren Middle School and the apartment complex,
And where is the apartment complex?
north of Wren Middle School.
And north on this map, is that near the
The
top or the
top,
bottom?
the top, sir.
And we'll look at state exhibit number 2 now. What are we seeing here?
That is the actual apartment complex itself.
All right. Do you remember where you came into the apartment complex?
If I remember right, sir, I believe I came in from the north side, which would be traveling southbound on Acme.
At the time that you responded to the location, were you equipped with a body worn camera?
Yes, sir, I was.
Was that camera capable of making an accurate recording?
Yes, sir, it was.
Was it activated on at the time that you responded?
Yes, sir, it was.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes,
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 3. Do you recognize this?
Yes, sir, I do.
How do you recognize it?
It's a copy of the video. It's got my name and badge number on it and my initials.
Have you had a chance to review it?
Yes, sir, I have.
Is it an accurate copy of your body cam aside from removing the hearsay audio?
Yes, sir, it is.
And to your knowledge, aside from removing the inadmissible audio, has it been altered in any way?
Not to my knowledge.
At this time, Your Honor, we move to enter exhibit number 3 for all purposes, tendering defense counsel. It's
I have no objection.
all right, states exhibit number 3 is admitted without objection.
May we publish?
Yes,
As I'm getting this loaded up, Officer Kilmer, when you responded to the scene, what did you encounter first?
When I first got there, when I came into the complex, I went to the right. As I came around the right, there was a person I had seen in the parking lot.
Did you know who that person was?
No, sir, I did not. While we were responding to the call, there had been several descriptions put out of clothing. As I came around the corner in the complex, I think I made a comment on the radio about somebody.
I want to object to narrative response.
Sustained.
So the individual that you made contact with, why did you make contact with him?
He matched the description of a subject.
Do you remember what that description was?
I believe it was a white t-shirt. I remember right, sir.
All right, we will. We will start playing exhibit number 3.
Bless you.
All right, and we'll start playing from 14:48 and 51 seconds Zulu time. Officer, actually, before I continue playing from that point, are you familiar with Zulu time? Do you know what that is?
I'm sorry, sir.
Are you familiar with Zulu time? Do you
Yes,
know
sir.
what that is?
Military time.
Okay, so the Zulu time that we're seeing up here on the screen, is this the time that is this the local time that you responded? Or is this military time?
No, that looks like it may be. I can't really read what that is.
Let me see that.
Does it say 1442? 1448?
Okay, so is that the time that you responded?
No, it wasn't at 2 o'clock. That's for sure. It was 9 o'clock.
Thanks, sir. All right, we'll keep playing. Who's this individual that we're seeing on the screen right now?
And that's an individual by the name of Mr. Trevino.
And we're seeing at this point, you holding him at gunpoint. What is your reason for doing that?
If you go back in the video, you'll see when Mr. Trevino turns around to point, he's got something in his back pocket that I immediately identified as a weapon sticking in his back pocket.
And at this point, when you're responding, what do you know about the scene that you're responding to?
I know it's a shooting with a hit. The suspect is supposedly wearing a white shirt. I did not know if this gentleman was in fact the suspect or a witness, but I do know that he was armed when he walked up on me.
And what is your job as you're approaching the scene and you see a potential witness or suspect? What is your role?
My job is to stop them, detain them, and hold on to them until we can get them identified to figure out who they are.
Did you do that here?
Yes, sir, I did.
And now around 1450, we saw a case on your body camera. Do you know what that is?
I'm sorry?
Let me back it up a bit. Around 1450, we saw a case in the grass. Do you know what that?
Oh, yes, I know. The case was a gun case, I believe, that belonged to Mr. Trevino.
What are we seeing now around 1450 and 35 seconds?
At this particular point, Mr. Trevino is pointing a direction where he said he chased a suspect. We're placing him in the car because at this time we did not know exactly who Mr. Trevino was, or he was being completely honest with us.
Once you have individuals or potential witnesses detained, what does your role become after that?
At that point, we are responsible for that person's safety and security, and we are removed from a crime scene. The idea is to protect them and preserve everything we have so that nothing gets lost.
Is your job as a patrol officer to collect statements or evidence?
I collect field statements out in the field for initial reports. For further follow-up purposes, that's the detectives.
And we can't get into the hearsay, but did you take a field statement from Mr. Trevino?
I did not talk to Mr. Trevino in that regards. Mr. Valdez did. That's Officer Valdez, Detective Valdez right there.
Now we're around 14:52 and 37 seconds. What are you doing at this point?
This point, Detective Valdez had secured Mr. Trevino. I went back out onto the quadrant to continue searching. Because we didn't know for a fact that Mr. Trevino was or was not a suspect. So we continued to search until we were cleared from that.
Were you eventually cleared from that?
I was eventually returned back to the crime scene itself to assist in transporting possible witnesses.
Do you remember which witnesses you transported?
I ended up not having to transport. I was sent back to the sub to pick up a car seat for a possible witness who had a child. And by the time I picked that car seat up or was on the way back, I was canceled. I wasn't needed. And then I was released from the crime scene.
Did you ever go to the location of the alleged murder?
I went up to the apartment at the request of the sergeant, but I never went into the apartment itself.
We'll stop playing the video around 14:53 and 48 seconds. We'll pass the witness, Judge.
No question.
All right, is this witness excused or subject to recall?
Excused by the state, Judge.
I don't need them.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. All right, thank you. State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Officer Mark Valera.
All right, if you'll take a seat here, please. You raise your right hand for me.
Yes, ma'am.
You solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you can lower your hand, make sure you keep your voice up so that the court reporter and the jurors could hear. If you could state your name for the record and spell it, please.
Officer Mark Valero, Mark M-A-R-C, Valero V-A-L-E-R-O.
All right, state.
Officer Valera, who do you currently work for?
The San Antonio Police Department,
How long have you worked for SAPD?
going on 29 years.
What's your current role with SAPD?
I'm a K-9 handler with K-9,
How long have you been doing that for?
just a little over 2 years.
I want to take you to July 29th of 2019. Were you with the K-9 unit at that time?
No, sir, I was not. I was with the West Safe Unit.
And what is the SAFE unit?
Safe Unit stands for San Antonio Fear-Free Environment. We're the community policing officers.
And what do you do with the SAFE unit specifically?
Safe Unit, we do a little bit of everything. We're like a hybrid police officer where we are proactive and going out and taking care of a district. They assign you a district on the west side to work. And then you're active in community meetings, HOA meetings, active with the schools, do career days. But then you're out there helping follow-up units, picking up felons, just doing a little bit of everything that a police officer can do.
So you'd still do the same functions that a patrol officer would.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And then some.
And on July 29th of 2019, were you called to respond to a shooting?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember where that shooting was at?
It was at 535 South Acme, the Bethel Place Apartments.
And what side of town is that at?
That's on the west side, right there by Acme and Commerce.
And is that in Bexar County?
Yes, sir, it is.
So when you arrived at the scene, were you in a marked uniform?
Yes, I was in a marked police vehicle. Yes, sir.
Okay, and were you wearing your uniform?
Yes, sir, I was.
When you got to the scene, were you equipped with a body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
Have you had a chance to view the body-worn camera video from this day?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay, and you're able to operate the body-worn camera, right?
Yes, sir.
Now that you've seen that, after you saw that video, was it a true and accurate depiction of what happened on that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and as far as you're aware, was it able to record an accurate recording of what was going on?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm gonna approach you with what's being marked as State's Exhibit 4. Can you tell me what this is?
It's a DVD player with my name and initial on it, where I was able to view that body worn camera video.
And as far as you could recollect, the recording that's captured on this disc, it was a true and accurate recording of the body-worn camera, correct?
Yes, sir.
Has it been altered or amended in any way besides being muted?
No, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, State would offer State's Exhibit 4 in evidence.
No objection.
All right, State's Exhibit number 4 is admitted without objection.
And permission to publish, Judge?
Granted.
Officer Valero, so when you arrived at the scene, what did you do?
Well, I was actually with our commander. Our captain rode along with me. We heard the E-tone for a shooting with a hit, and we went out there to respond, to do what we could to try to find the bad guy and do what we could at the crime scene.
And can you explain to the jury what's an E-tone?
Oh, I'm sorry. E-tone is an emergency tone. It goes out throughout the entire city whenever there's an emergency, like a shooting or a major accident or an officer in trouble, things of that nature. So an E-tone catches your attention as a police officer right away.
And so when you responded out to the scene, what were your duties?
Well, actually, it was a shooting with a hit, and then they put out Officer Kilmer, who just left the stand. They put him out in trouble because he got to the scene before we did, and he spotted a man with a gun.
Judge, I'm going to object to hearsay.
Sustained.
I'm sorry.
So
But
when you got to the scene, what did you see?
we got to the scene. We several officers there with a victim that was shot 3 times. And then they announced that there was another victim inside the apartment that appeared to be a DOA.
Did you ever go inside the apartment?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. When you arrived at the scene, what did you do?
Just being proactive. You know, everybody gets a piece of work when they go to a major crime scene like that. I noticed there was no crime scene tape. So I grabbed some crime scene tape and I immediately put a perimeter of crime scene tape to make sure nobody entered the crime scene.
So from what you're telling us, in essence, all of the roles, everyone gets handed out an assignment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And you just got to be proactive. You know, that sometimes it can be very chaotic. You know, that we're still looking for a shooter that might be out there. And so everybody tries to do something to help each other out, all the officers.
And did you remain at the crime scene for long?
No, sir, I didn't. Fire department and EMS personnel were working on that victim. And, the sergeant needed somebody to go with the victim to the hospital to help identify him and see how serious his injuries were. So I volunteered to do that.
You remember what hospital you went to?
University Hospital.
Okay. And do you remember the identity of the person who you accompanied to the hospital?
Yes, sir.
What was his name?
I don't recall right now, sir.
Did you write a report in this case?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And would looking at that report, would it help refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir, it would.
Judge, permission to approach the witness.
Granted.
Blair, I'm showing you your report. You can just take a look, refresh your recollection. Please don't read directly off of it, but whenever you remember, please let us know.
Yes, I remember now. He had the same first name as me, Mark. Mark Hernandez, and he spelled his name same way I did.
So you accompanied Mark to the hospital. Did anyone else go to speak with Mark?
Yes, homicide detective Rachel Barnes went out to the hospital to talk to the victim.
Okay, and were you present when Detective Barnes questioned Mark?
Yes, I was.
And is that recorded on your body cam?
Yes.
Now, after you accompanied Detective Barnes to question Mark, did you do anything else in regards to this case?
No, I just helped identify the Mark with a full name, date of birth, as much identification as I could get from him. And I passed it along to the handling officer, Officer Walter Thompson.
And I'm going to fast forward the video very quickly. Now, I paused the video. It's at 16:47:25. Who is that in the bed?
That is Mark Hernandez,
Okay,
the
and
victim.
Was this around the time that you and Detective Barnes were speaking with him?
Yes.
And do you see Detective Barnes here in the video? Here, I'll play it for you.
Yes, that's her with the like a light purple coat with a white blouse.
Do you remember how long you were at the hospital speaking with Mark?
It wasn't long, maybe 20 minutes or so. We had to calm down his family too, because his family showed up to the hospital, and that's one of
Okay,
the
I'm
other.
gonna object to relevance.
He asked what else I did.
Just 1 second. Whenever someone makes an objection, stop speaking.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
Judge, we'll move on.
All right.
So,
Then the defense's objection will be sustained.
so was Mark being treated at the time that you were speaking with him?
Yes.
Past witness.
I have no questions.
All right, is this witness excused or subject to recall?
Excuse, Judge.
I'm not gonna recall him.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state of the defense.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state called CSI Eric Robertson. Robertson.
All right. All right, could you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so the court reporting jurors could hear. If you state your name and spell it for the record, please.
My name is Eric Robertson, ERICROBERSON.
State.
Now, Eric, who do you currently work for?
SAPD.
What do you do for SAPD?
I'm a crime scene investigator.
So CSI.
Yes, sir.
So what is your role as a CSI?
Our role is to preserve and process crime scenes for the purposes of trial.
Now, can you just explain, I guess, a little bit further? What can that entail?
It depends on the crime scene, but we do photographs, collecting evidence, fingerprints, sketching, stuff like that.
And how long have you been doing that for?
13 years.
What type of training did you get to become a CSI?
I went through a 400-hour training course when I was hired, and then a month-long ride-alongs with another CSI in training, and then various trainings throughout my 13 years.
And what does this training entail exactly?
The 400-hour course went over everything that we're going to go over or we're going to do as a CSI, and then training in the field was take as many calls as you can take over the different types of calls that we handle. And then the various trainings just depend on the topic at hand. I mean,
So is it different than what people normally think of whenever they think of CSI?
for the most part, yes.
Now, on July 29th of 2019, were you working?
Yes,
Okay. And do you recall being called out to the scene of the shooting?
Yes.
Now, were you the only CSI who went out to that scene?
No, sir.
Do you recall who else went out with you?
I believe Detective Arriaga and CSI Sanchez.
And whenever there are multiple CSIs at the scene, what happens?
We just kind of decide amongst each other, usually who's going to do what task for that scene.
Now, do you recall what you were tasked with doing at the scene?
I did a sketch and collected the evidence.
Now, going specifically into the evidence that was collected, do you recall we're collecting 3 shell casings from the scene?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall where the shells were located?
It's in my report if you have that for me.
Well, in addition, did you also complete a sketch of the scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Judge, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's being marked as exhibit 5 and 6. Can you identify this for me? Here's exhibit 5, and then here's state's exhibit number 6.
5 is the rough sketch that I completed, and 6 is going to be the legend and measurements that associate with the sketch.
Okay, so let's start with state's exhibit number 5. So whenever you created a sketch, what do you tend to do?
Draw out the location, whether it's an apartment, in this case it was an apartment, whether it's a house, street, we just draw it out by hand. Put identifying markers in there, couch, kitchen, bed, rooms, stuff like that. Number our evidence that we find, and then do some basic measurements overall of the rooms in that place.
Okay, and looking at state's exhibit number 5, is that a true and accurate copy of the sketch that you made on that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and does it fairly and accurately depict the evidence that was found and the layout of the crime scene?
Yes.
Your Honor, state would move to offer state's exhibit number 5 into evidence.
Judge, I've looked at it. I have no objection.
All right, state's exhibit number 5 is admitted without objection.
Okay, now I just want to point your attention to state's exhibit number 6. What is this?
It's the legend and the measurements associated with the sketch.
So you say legend, so what does that mean?
There's things labeled in the sketch, various walls. I label them A, B, C, and D, and we measure items of evidence off of those walls. So A, B, C, and D in my legend describes which walls I'm talking about, and the measurements are the measurements from the items of evidence to those walls.
So speaking about the measurements specifically, so I see it's labeled 1 through what looks like 11, then it's 13 and B, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so what do those indicate?
They are measurements from each item of evidence to whichever wall it corresponds to.
And now, are these 100% precise, the location of each item of evidence?
I wouldn't say 100%, but they are about as precise as you can get.
How do you get those measurements?
We have a digital laser measure.
And what does that do?
It measures distance between 2 points.
So in order to get, let's say, item number 1, how would you have measured that?
I would have put the laser measure above item number 1 and pointed at the wall that I wanted to measure it from.
Okay, and then the corresponding measurement would have been what?
To a different wall.
Okay.
So we have 2 points to each item of evidence.
I'm going to show. Judge, where's the publish?
All right, are you offering state's exhibit number 6?
Yes, Your Honor, state would offer state's exhibit number 6.
No objections to that either.
All right, state's exhibit number 6 is admitted without objection, and yes, you may publish.
Okay, so I'm going to show. State's exhibit number 5. So you can point, so there are various points that are labeled A, B, C, and D, correct?
Yes, sir.
So for example, where my finger's pointing right now, that's B.
Correct. That's B wall.
Okay, and then where I'm pointing right now, that's C.
Correct.
Okay. And then that should be D.
Correct.
So it's from those various points that all the measurements are taken.
Correct.
Okay, and so then what are all these little, it's numbers that are circled, what? for
Those would be
example-
items of evidence.
Okay, so it specifically corresponds to whatever item of evidence you collect.
Correct.
Okay. And talking about that, so I asked earlier, if you recalled collecting 3 shell casings from the location.
Yes, sir.
Now, do you remember where you found those shell casings?
Like I said, they're listed in my report, if you have that.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Yes, I wrote, then I'm gonna show you your report. Take a look and review what items were marked off as the shell casings.
E1 is a shell casing, E2 is a shell casing, and E13 is a shell casing.
Okay, so let's start with E1. Where was E1 found?
E1 was found in the entryway.
Okay, so would that be correct in saying that right around where my finger is?
Correct.
Okay, and where was E2 found?
It was in the living room, on the living room floor.
Okay, so would it be correct in saying where my finger's pointing there?
Correct.
Okay. And now you said E13?
Yes.
Okay, and pointing right now, is that where E13 was found?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, there were 3 shell casings, correct?
Correct. That's all we found at that time. Yes.
And whenever you found these shell casings, what did you do with them?
They're packaged in an envelope, sealed with red tape, and then initialed and badged on the red tape.
And
My
are-
initials and badge.
Are you the officer that puts them in the, where are the items taken after they're labeled?
They're sealed at our office, and then they're taken to the property room at 401 South Frio.
And were you the CSI who put these items in the property room?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
CSI Roberson. Were you asked to go retrieve these shell casings from the property room?
Yes, sir.
And do you have them with you?
Yes, sir.
Nancy? Oh, man. All right. Labeling this state's exhibit number 8. What is this? Or still, sorry, state's exhibit number 7. What is this?
That is an envelope from the Bear County Crime Lab that contains the envelopes with my shell casings inside.
Okay, and how do you know that these corresponds to the correct case that we're talking about here?
There's a label for each shell casing that has the correct case number on it.
Okay, and now would you be able to open them, please?
Sure. Do you have scissors
Scissors.
Do you have scissors over there?
and gloves? You need gloves.
Thank you, Diana. You're doing double duty.
Okay, now when you looked inside, what was inside that big bag? State's exhibit number 7.
Just those 3 shell casings.
Okay, and how do you know that these 3 bags, these smaller bags that were in state's exhibit number 7, how do you know that they correspond to this particular case?
They have the label that I created with the same case number.
Okay, and would you have marked the bag in any way?
Yes, the red tape sealing, all 3 of them are initialed with my initials and badge and the date.
And are those found on all 3 bags?
Yes, sir.
Now, would you be able to open, let's call this the state's exhibit number 8, 9, and 10? Would you be able to open state's exhibit number? Hide anything. Let's open states 9. There it is. Okay, and what was in states exhibit number 9?
A spent shell casing.
Okay, and that's the same, one of the same spent shell casings that you would have recovered at the scene.
Correct.
And what specific shell casing was that?
This States Exhibit 9 is E11.
Okay, was that the shell casing that was found in the bedroom?
Correct.
Okay, and as far as you can tell, was that altered in any way?
Not as far as I can tell, no.
Okay. Your Honor, state would move to offer state exhibit number 8, 9, and 10 into evidence.
Yes, can I take over this on board?
Yes, you may. Yes.
Can I see the big envelope? Okay, so you're the one that submitted this into the property room?
I submitted these 3 into the property room. I did not have anything to do with the big envelope other than bringing it here today.
Okay, so when you submitted this to the property room, did you submit it in this manner?
Correct. Other than the extra tape that's on there from the crime lab as well.
Okay, so do you have any idea what happened with it after you submitted it?
No, sir. It goes to the property room, from the property room at 401 South Frio. It goes to the property room at 55 Academic, the main property room. And from there, we don't have anything to deal with it until today.
Okay, I guess I'm confused. So how do you know these are the same cases you submitted?
Because it has the label that I created and it has my initials and badge on the inside of the envelope.
Okay, but once you submit it, what happens? It goes off to somebody else, right?
Correct.
Okay, so these are the same envelopes you submitted, right?
Correct.
Okay, but you have no way of knowing whether or not, did you mark the casings themselves individually?
No, they're marked on the inside of the envelope. That's it.
Okay, so you have no way of knowing whether or not these are the exact casings you submitted. These are just the envelopes you submitted. right?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Any objections to states? State you're offering 8, 9, and 10?
Yes, Your Honor. Again, that goes to weight, not admissibility.
I'm just trying to see if there are any objections first, counsel.
There is, Judge, because I don't think he's proven any chain of custody. He can actually testify, and he said so, that these are actually the casings he submitted. So I don't believe they've proven proper chain of custody. I'd object to their entry into evidence.
All right, state.
And Your Honor, that would go towards weight, not admissibility. He has testified that these are the same envelopes. It's marked. It's the same casings that he found at the scene.
Judge, if I could, I don't object to the emission of the envelopes. I understand those are the envelopes he signed. I'm just saying the casings that he says are inside that, he can't actually testify. Those are the actual casings. There's no markings on them. There's nothing unique or identifying. He didn't do anything, scratching the initials or anything else. So we have no way of knowing whether or not those are the casings that were actually submitted. I have no objection to the envelope, the big envelope or the little envelopes coming in. I do object to the casings coming in because we don't know whether or not those are the actual casings he submitted.
All right. And the objection will be overruled. States exhibit number 8, 9, and 10 are admitted.
And now I wanted to draw your attention.
Yes.
I wanted to draw your attention to the research. So which items of evidence are we looking at?
13, 1, and 2.
Okay. And so you had said earlier, so number 1, that was found in the entryway.
Correct.
Number 2, that was found in the kitchen.
Middle of the living room.
Thank you, middle of the living room. And 13 was found in the bedroom.
Correct.
All right. And state you did not seek to offer number 7, did you?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, permission to publish?
Granted.
So specifically with state number 13, so this was the item that was found in the bedroom, correct?
Correct.
And going to state's exhibit number 5, that would correspond to about this location?
Correct.
Okay. Pass the witness, Judge.
I don't have any other questions.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse, Your Honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state of the defense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and Dinah, do you need to sign over evidence from him? So everyone just gonna take a 2-minute break. You can remain in your seats. The court reporter just needs to sign over some evidence for receipt.
Do you need a copy of it? Maybe excuse you.
Yes. All right, state, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state called Jessica Sanchez.
All right, if you'll take a seat here. All right, could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record and spell it, and also keep your voice up so that the court reporter and the jurors can hear.
Hello, I'm CSI Jessica Sanchez, JESSICA SANCHEZ.
All right, state.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Sanchez, as a CSI, what agency do you work for?
I work for San Antonio Police Department.
What kind of training do you receive to become a CSI?
I have a bachelor's degree as well as 360 hours of TCOL or training hours
What's TEFL?
at Texas Commission on Law Enforcement.
What, I guess generally, what did those training hours involve?
They teach us how to document, analyze evidence at a crime scene, help identify what looks suspicious or what can be possible evidence at a crime scene. Also how to package it and collect it and preserve it for further investigations.
When you respond to a crime scene, are those your duties, what you just described to your training? In?
Yes,
How long have you been with SAPD?
I have worked for SAPD 6 years. I worked 1 year in the evidence facility where evidence is obtained for chain of custody. And I've also worked 5 years as a crime scene investigator.
So when you were working in the evidence room, what do you do when you receive items of evidence
When I'm in the
in the evidence room?
I usually will photograph it, photograph the items, we package it, and we send it off to the facility to be retained for follow-up or detectives to send it to the lab or look at it for further investigation.
What kind of safety measures are in place to make sure that evidence is not tampered with once it's brought to the evidence room?
We package it securely. We also place evidence tape, clear tape, and then with our evidence tape, we put our initials, badge, and like the date. That way we know if it's been tampered with.
So in July or on July 29th of 2019, what was your position?
On that day, I believe I went to assist CSI Roberson and Detective Arriaga with recording a video.
So you were a CSI on that day, or you were out in the field on that day?
Yes, I was.
Do you remember the address that you responded to?
It's a 535 South Acme Road. It was apartment 10203.
Oh, and that's in Bexar County, Texas.
Yes,
When you responded to that, I believe you said you were responsible for recording a video.
yes.
What is a crime scene video?
A crime scene video is like a supplemental kind of investigation tool that we use to go along with the photos. That way you can see what we kind of saw at the scene. That way the photos, the evidence, and the video kind of correspond with everything that we've collected. And it's just an additional tool. That way you can see, like I said, what we saw.
So officers are equipped with body cams. Why is a crime scene video made?
It's mainly so we can focus on the evidence that we collect, because the body cam is on the person. So it's going to be kind of right here. This is the viewpoint that you see. Whereas we use the video camera, kind of like a newer camcorder. That's a little bit more up to date. And then we can zoom in that we can actually see the evidence up close versus just from a body cam. That's kind of this perception.
And did you say you actually recorded a crime scene video on that day?
Yes, I did.
Madam Clerk, you want to check?
Yes.
Showing you what's been pre-marked as exhibit number 15. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is a physical copy of the video recording that I took.
Have you had a chance to review it?
Yes, I have.
Is it an accurate copy of the video that you took? To
Yes, it is.
your knowledge, has it been altered in any way?
No, it hasn't.
Your Honor, at this time, we offer exhibit number 15 for all purposes. Under defense counsel. Yeah, I don't think there's any.
Judge, do we have?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you all, I say us, I'm going to give you all a short break. Let's be back at 2:55. I want to instruct you that you've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to discuss it amongst yourself. You're not allowed to start deliberating in your own head. If anyone happens to be talking about this case, you're to ignore it. If anyone tries to ask you questions about this case, you are to ignore it. You're not allowed to begin deliberations until I instruct you. You're not allowed to do any investigation on this case. Everything that you need to know will come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? Yes, ma'am. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. All right, defense. With regards to your objection, the court has had a chance to review State's Exhibit number 15. The court is going to sustain your objection as it relates to the video within the video that's labeled M as in Vic and V as in Victor I 0498 and M and VI 0497. So the court will sustain your objections as it relates to those two parts of the video in State's Exhibit number 15.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, anything else from either side? Before I bring Ms. Rebecca?
We're still burning the disc, Judge. It should just take another 2 minutes or so if you can give us a bit.
Okay, sure.
And I guess, Judge, how would you like us to handle it? Would you like to substitute the exhibit or do a separate exhibit? Dan was thinking a separate exhibit would be easier.
If you all would like, what we can do is the new DVD. Yes. If you would like, stay in defense, if there is no objection, the new DVD that they're burning, it could be labeled as 15A. Or either if you still want to keep 15 and make the original 15A, you can.
Just as long as we make sure that only one goes back.
Yes. So if you want to label the redacted one 15A, you can.
I'll do that, Judge. Just since we've already been on the record on 15
Okay.
being offered.
All right, then the redacted version will be 15A. And State, are you going to have any objections to 15A? I'm sorry, defense.
No, Judge.
Okay.
Well, Judge, I would like all of it excluded, but of course I'll take what I can get.
Okay, thank you. And then State, if then on the record in front of the jury, if you'll offer 15A, and then the court will make its ruling on that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Diana, I was extremely thirsty. I'm still almost. Oh, I have to have it in. And then I have class tonight. So, yes. But it. This.
Test it.
Mhm.
Do you want to make?
But I've enjoyed it though. It has been.
Next witness.
You're like, it's a lot of work. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, let's go watch.
I went down there and he was on the stand, so I was just gonna mention that to the judge.
That's
Everybody's gonna be on it.
because I think they almost have the DVD burned.
That's Gibby's case, right?
Yeah, Holster was down there. and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And Judge, I just mentioned the.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be on record. The Pendleton or firearm.
I don't think I can.
I didn't.
You want some? Okay, do you need them?
It's really pretty though.
I don't mark them, that's what I'm saying. 'cause
Okay.
some of the
Okay.
kids will- Okay.
All right, thank you.
Who are the attorneys
appreciate
involved?
you asking.
Who are the attorneys involved? Okay, I guess it depends on how long that's gonna go.
Judge, I'd like to go watch.
But, you know, just what they call it.
So that witness is next. How long is this witness gonna take to get to the?
It'll take about 18 minutes probably to get through the videos. All we're gonna do is play the videos. I'm gonna talk with her a bit about where we're looking at in the video, so
Mhm.
maybe half an hour left for her.
Okay,
I think that he should be on it.
all right. And Mr. Maurer, not to put you on the spot, but as you are aware, the defense is, I'm sorry, the state's next witness is testifying in another courtroom. I don't know how long that's gonna last. Who are the prosecutors on the other side?
Andrew Fields. I know he's in my question.
It's Gibby's capital case. Is Fields on direct right now or they crossed the guy yet? I don't know. I mean, I didn't, I get, he's questioning right now, so I didn't get a chance to actually ask that.
Oh, who's questioning him?
Andrew Fields. So it may be on redirect, but I imagine it's correct.
All right, let's do this. Deputy Laura, would you tell them it's going to be 15 more minutes? Yes, tell them 3:15.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. And Deputy Laura, you can just let the jurors know it's because I'm presiding.
Judge, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go down and check as well.
Yes, and if you could see, and maybe y'all can give me an estimate.
I'll ask Bobby and see what he thinks.
All right, thank you. Can you mute us and stop video? And state you have the CD already burned?
Yes, Judge.
All right.
I labeled it 15C just for fun. No, I'm kidding.
I'm like you're throwing us off. You know, they say they're shutting down corporate for McDonald's. I guess they're saying something about their sales, but if they would make the mag rib more than just during the Christmas season and bring back the Cajun fries, maybe we'd be somewhere. Oh, I thought you were the jury. I was just like. We're ready? Yes.
All right, for the jury.
Oh, please be seated. We stand for you. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, state, are you withdrawing the introduction of State's Exhibit number 15?
Yes, Your Honor. We'll withdraw Exhibit 15. At this time, we offer Exhibit 15A into evidence for all purposes, tendering to the defense counsel.
No objection, Judge.
All right.
Based upon the order from the court.
All right, then State's Exhibit number 15A is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we publish?
Yes, you may publish.
And Ms. Contes, is the crime scene video that you recorded, is that all one long video or is it multiple clips?
It's multiple clips. I have to stop it to pause occasionally when people or bystanders would get into the video. That's why it ends up being little increments of the video.
We'll play what's labeled ending in 485. What are we looking at in this clip?
This is just a photo board. It's like an introduction piece of paper that's telling me that I'm starting the video. And it has the case number, the address, of course, my name and badge number, and the date and the camera that I used.
We'll play now the video ending in 486. What are we looking at here?
This is the apartment building, so this must be the first floor and where I'm entering the second floor.
Why would you take a video like this?
I do that so you can see what I saw as I entered the scene, the crime scene.
What are we looking at now around 24 seconds into the video?
It appears to be blood and possible debris.
Were you responsible for collecting that or any other evidence at the scene?
No, I wasn't.
Do you know who was?
CSI Roberson.
What are we looking at now around 43 seconds into the video?
This is the entrance of the apartment where I observed an evidence E1. And then also I noticed debris or clear baggies with apparent blood, clothing, and other evidence markers that were placed by the CSI Roberson.
Was there anything in the baggies?
I believe they were empty. Here I'm trying to do a close-up image of E1.
All right, and that's around 1 minute and 17 seconds in.
Yes.
And what are we looking at now around 1 minute and 50 seconds in?
I'm trying to show E2, which is evidence marker number 2, which is another splint shell casing. I do a close-up image of this.
Why aren't we seeing other officers around when you're making this recording?
They try to stay out of the video, to be honest. They usually don't want to be inside of it. And also I'm facing down towards the evidence. I'm kind of just looking down at the evidence. That way you can see what I saw. I usually announce before I start a video. That way they can move if they want to.
Here around 3 minutes and 16 seconds in, is there anything unusual about the wall that we're seeing in this video?
Yes, it appears that there's a light coming from outside in the corner of the wall. Would you like me to mark it?
Yeah, let's see. You can try to press on the screen. I think you may be able to circle it. Okay. That's what you're talking about, the light coming in from the outside?
Yes,
Were you able to get a closer view of that later?
yes, I did.
Okay. And what are we seeing over on the right-hand side right now? We're still at 3 minutes and 17 seconds into the video.
On the right-hand side, I believe that's a futon and other furniture that was in the apartment complex or in the apartment.
May I use the well, Judge?
Yes.
Let's switch over briefly to what's been admitted as exhibit number 5. Possible. Okay. We'll leave it there. What I'm pointing to now here down at the bottom or near the bottom of the sketch, is that the approximate location of the futon that we were just looking at?
It's approximate location.
So along which wall is the hole that we're seeing? This one that borders the far right side, or this inset wall that borders this right side?
The lower inset wall.
Okay. We'll switch back over. And we'll resume playing as exhibit 15A. All right, now at 3 minutes and 26 seconds, what are we seeing on frame at this point?
I'm observing the victim appears to be in the restroom. It's just the view from the front entrance.
Did you have any duties or responsibilities with regards to treatment or handling of the victim?
No, the only thing I did was video the medical examiner.
Just as a warning for the jury and the audience, at some point, is there blood and more graphic content on your crime scene video?
Yes, there is.
Okay, so that will be coming later.
Yes, there.
We'll keep playing. How do you choose what to document first on a crime scene video?
Usually when I go to a crime scene, I try to do it as you enter the location. Sometimes I'll do it if they tell me like where it started, where the incident happened. Perhaps if it's outside or in a particular like room, I'll start from there. But in this case, I didn't know. I went to assist, so I just started from the outside in. And I also didn't place the markers, so I just kind of went with their markers as well.
Great. We'll continue with the video ending in 487. What are we looking at here?
This is the exterior of the scene. So this is when I arrived. This is the outside of the apartment complex.
Why did you choose to film this area?
When I arrive at a scene, I try to always document the exterior of the scene just in case that might have any relevance.
And we'll play the video ending in 488. Pausing now at 10 seconds into that video. What are we looking at on the screen?
It appears to be a defect on the exterior wall of the apartment complex.
Were you able to tell what caused the defect?
No, I wasn't.
And we'll play the video ending in 489. Why were you recording this area?
I didn't know where the defect was from, so I was actually searching for it while I was recording.
We'll play the video ending in 490. And so what are we seeing now at 4 seconds into that video?
This appears to be another defect in the wall from the interior of the apartment.
And can you circle on there what you're referring to? The hole that's at the center there?
Yes, that's correct.
We'll keep playing. Play the video ending in 491. What are we looking at here?
This is apparent blood that was in the kitchen area of the apartment.
Switching over to Exhibit 5. What we're looking at here that's labeled kitchen, is that the area that you're referring to?
Yes, where the apparent blood was at.
And this marker 5, what was that marking?
That was the blood on the floor.
That we just saw
Yes.
in Exhibit 15A. Switch back over and play the video ending in 492. Now the video ending in 493. What are we seeing in what looks like marked as E6 on about 15 seconds into the video?
That's more blood. I believe here I'm just going through each individual number at this point and just doing a close shot of them.
Did you speak with any witnesses?
I did not.
Was that your job?
No.
What are we seeing here around 2 minutes and 5 seconds in? Looks like there's a placard for number 11 that's on the door. What was that marking?
Detective Ayaga had placed that marker there because there was blood on the door, but however, because of the color, it's kind of hard to see on that side. I see it on the doorknob here. I'm closing the door, that way you can see the other side as well.
That's around 2 minutes and 40 seconds in.
Yes.
All right, we'll play the video ending in 494. Again, it does show some graphic content. What are we seeing here at the beginning? Do you know who that is manipulating the toilet seat cover?
Yes, that's the medical examiner, Justin Trevino.
What's the role of the medical examiner at a scene like this?
They're supposed to go and do a field investigation to look at the body for defects and let us know if it seems of natural causes or not natural causes.
We're zooming in here at 37 seconds in. What are we seeing on the video at this point?
This is the medical examiner's case number, along with identified male, because they didn't have a for sure ID on him at the time.
Did you say identified or unidentified?
Unidentified male.
We'll keep playing. We'll jump forward a little bit. So here at 1 minute and 53 seconds in, do you know what they were doing at this point?
The medical examiner is looking for defects on the head for possible bullet injuries or gunshot wounds.
We'll keep jumping forward. So here around 3 minutes and 30 seconds, do you know what they're looking for at this point?
I believe he's still looking for defects in the head.
We'll keep jumping. We'll play the video ending in 495. What are we seeing at this point?
I'm recording the back of the victim as well as the floor. That way, if there's any evidence or items there, I can record them in the video.
We'll move to the video ending in 496. And lastly, the video ending in 499. What are we seeing here around 2 seconds into the video?
In 2 seconds, we placed an evidence placard 13. A spent, I believe it was a spent shell casing was found in the bedroom.
We'll keep playing. May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
Sanchez, I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibits 11, 12, 13, and 14. Do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes, I do.
Generally speaking, what are they altogether?
These are photographs from the crime scene.
Did you take those photographs?
I did not.
Do they accurately reflect the crime scene as you viewed it, obviously at certain points during that day?
Yes, it is.
To your knowledge, have these photographs been altered in any way?
No, they haven't.
Judge, I'd like to take the witness over there.
Oh, he hasn't offered it yet.
We'll do that this time, Judge. We offer exhibits 11, 12, 13, and 14 into evidence for all purposes.
All right.
Defense counsel.
Defense, you may voir dire.
Yeah, approach, Judge.
Yes.
So, is it officer, are you detective? What, I mean,
I'm a CSI. I'm a civilian.
okay. So you said you didn't take these photographs?
I didn't.
Okay, so, you know who did?
It was Detective Ariaga.
Okay, so if you didn't take the photographs, how do you know whether or not they've been altered?
Because I looked at them and I was at this crime scene as well as I did the video.
Okay, no, I understand you did the video,
Mhm.
but you didn't take the photographs.
I looked at the photographs prior to trial as well.
I understand that. When did you look at them prior to trial?
today.
Okay. Did you participate in taking the photographs?
I didn't participate in taking the photographs.
So you looked at them before today, right? So I guess the question is, you're saying that you just looked at them beforehand, but you didn't take the photographs.
No, but I was there. Well,
I'm not disputing that at all.
yes,
I'm just saying you didn't take them, right?
yes, that's correct.
So at the time they were taken, did you take a look at the photographs?
No,
Okay, so how can you say that they haven't been altered or modified if you didn't take them and the first time you saw them was a couple days ago?
I guess I can't say.
All right, state. Are you still offering states exhibits 11, 12, 13, and 14?
Yes, Judge. Has he raised an objection?
Yes, Judge, I object. She said she can't testify or prove up that they haven't been altered or modified. She was not the person that made the photographs. I would object to the admission of those photographs at this time.
All right, if I could see the exhibits, please. All right, any other objections, defense?
No, Judge.
All right, then states exhibits number 11, 12, 13, and 14 are admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach?
Yes,
May we publish?
yes.
So we're looking here at state exhibit number 11. What are we seeing in this exhibit?
This is the hallway or the exterior of the apartment.
Is this the direction that we saw the crime scene video filmed in?
No, I believe this is the other direction. This is facing out towards the street where I initially started the 360 or the surrounding area.
And in state exhibit number 12, what are we seeing here?
This is a view of the apartment from the wall, the inset wall, where the apparent defect was, just going in that corner.
Okay, and I'm not going to try to zoom in again, but what are we seeing here where I'm pointing near the bottom of the door over on the left-hand side?
I believe that's evidence placard 1. It's just very dark because it's on the side. So the tint is it's a tint shape, so it's just on the side where you can't see it very well there.
Okay, and over here, closer to the right-hand side, we're seeing evidence placard 2.
Yes, that's correct.
And what was recovered from each of those spots?
They were spent shell casings.
And then here in exhibit number 13, we're seeing marker number 13. What are we looking at here?
This is evidence placard number 13, which is the spent shell casing that was located in the bedroom.
Are you aware of any other shell casings that were recovered from that location?
No,
From that apartment?
no, I wasn't.
No. And then briefly here in exhibit number 14, what are we seeing here?
This is the victim in the restroom.
Pass the witness, Judge.
No questions.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excused by the state judge.
Not by me.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Samantha Gutierrez.
All right, if you'll take a seat here, please. Here. All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you can lower your hand, keep your voice up so that the court reporter and the jurors can hear. If you could state your name and spell it for the record.
My name is Samantha Gutierrez, Samantha. Last name is Gutierrez.
State,
Samantha, where were you living in July of 2019?
The Rosemont at Bethel Apartments,
Do you remember what the address was?
535 South Acme Road,
And how long have you lived in San Antonio?
35 years,
How old are you?
35.
Had you always lived at those apartments?
No,
Do you remember when you moved into those apartments?
April 2014.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about July 29th of 2019. Were you at your apartment on that day?
Yes.
Okay. And what were you doing on that morning?
I had just woke up. I had just woke up that morning. I was about to take out the trash.
So did you go outside at any time in the morning?
I did.
Okay. And did you notice anything out of the ordinary?
Yes.
What did you notice?
There was commotion. There was a guy on the staircase bleeding out.
And did you go over to the man who was bleeding on the staircase?
I did.
Okay. And what did you see?
He was bleeding out and one of my neighbors was trying to stop him from bleeding.
Okay. And did you do anything further?
No,
Okay. Where did you go after that?
I went back home.
And did you notice any officers arriving in the area?
Yes,
Now I'm going to ask, do you own a Ring doorbell camera?
I do.
Okay. And how long have you owned that camera?
About 6 years.
Okay. And in July of 2019, where was that camera positioned?
In my patio,
Okay. And what was it facing?
the parking lot.
Okay. And did it record any of the other buildings in the complex?
Yes.
What building did it record?
I believe building 4 and then building 10 across from me.
And so let's talk about the Ring camera specifically. When is it set to record?
When is the camera set to record?
Yes.
It stays recording.
Okay. And when do you get notified of any recordings it makes?
When there's motion, when there's people passing.
And how often do you get notifications of motion?
I have my notifications turned off. So in order to see any video, I have to go into the app
Okay. And why do you have your notifications turned off?
because it's annoying.
Why is it annoying?
It's just a lot of activity passing. I live at an apartment complex.
And was that Ring camera working on July 29th of 2019?
Yes,
Okay. And who has access to the recordings that it makes?
I do.
Anyone else?
No,
Did you have a chance to view the recordings that were made in the morning of July 29th, 2019?
yes,
Okay. Did you ever provide SAPD with any of those recordings?
I did.
How many recordings did you provide?
It was 3.
Okay. And did you watch those recordings before you sent them out to SAPD?
Yes,
How did you get them to SAPD? Do you remember?
I emailed them.
Okay. Now, you had a chance to watch the recordings back then, correct?
Yes,
Your Honor, may I approach?
yes.
Now I'm approaching with what's been marked as state exhibit number 16, 17, and 18. You recognize these discs?
yes.
What's on the discs?
The footage,
Okay. And have you had a chance to view the footage?
yes,
Okay. And was the footage that's on these discs, is it a copy of the recordings that were made on the morning of July 29th, 2019?
yes,
Okay. And as far as you could tell, have they been altered or amended in any way?
no,
Okay. And were the Ring doorbell cameras functioning properly on that day?
yes,
Were there any issues with the recordings?
no,
Your Honor, state would offer states exhibit number 16, 17, and 18.
Very briefly, if I just take on board our very
Yes.
briefly. And when is the last time you looked at those?
today,
Okay. And they're the same ones that you submitted to SAPD?
Yes.
Okay, I have no objection.
All right, States Exhibit 16, 17, and 18 are admitted without objection.
I'll pass it with this judge.
All right, any questions?
No.
Is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excused.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. All right, thank you. Okay. State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls David Pendleton.
All right, if you'll take a seat here, please.
Judge Maria, approach.
Yes. All right, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name and spell it for the record, please.
David Pendleton, it's Pendleton.
All right, if you can make sure you keep your voice up for the court report and the jurors.
Yes, Your Honor.
State.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Pendleton, what do you do for a living?
I'm a firearms examiner at the Bexar County Criminal Investigation Laboratory, but most people just refer to it as the crime lab.
How long have you been employed by the crime lab?
A little over 17 years.
What are your duties at the crime lab?
On a daily basis, I look at firearms evidence, particularly firearms. I will examine them and test fire them. I will also look at ammunition and ammunition components, both fired and unfired. In regards to fired evidence, such as bullets and cartridge cases, I will make an attempt to determine if they were fired in a particular firearm.
What kind of training have you received in that area?
Prior to training, you required a minimum of a bachelor's degree. So as far as education, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in justice policy, both from the University of Texas at San Antonio. The majority of my training was done within the laboratory. Initially takes a couple of years. We're also proficiency tested by an outside agency, and I'm a member of the Association of Firearm and Toolmark Examiners, and I'm certified in the area of firearm identification by that organization.
How often do you have to do proficiency testing?
Yearly, sir.
What is required for the certification that you mentioned by that agency?
It's similar. You have to take a test, a knowledge-based test. If you're a member in good standing, then you also have to take a practical examination, which is basically also a proficiency test. The answers are known unto you. You do your examination and see if you have the correct answers.
Is there any kind of certification for the crime lab itself?
Yes, sir, there are. We are accredited through ANAB, which is ANSI National Accreditation Board.
And back in 2019, were you certified at that time?
Yes, sir, I was.
Was the crime lab accredited at that time?
Yes, sir, it was.
You mentioned, I guess part of your duties are comparing ammunition or components of ammunition. What do you do to compare ammunition or components of ammunition? What do you look for?
With fired ammunition, the first thing we're going to look for are class characteristics. These will be like the shape, well, obviously the caliber, the shape of the firing pin, things that are very general. If these are in agreement, We will move on to look for more individual characteristics that are left from the firing process. If we can find sufficient agreement within these markings, then we can make a determination whether or not these items were fired from the same firearm.
Regarding class characteristics, where might those appear on ammunition?
On ammunition, as far as a cartridge case, they may appear on the firing pin, particularly the shape of the firing pin. They may appear on the breech face area and of an area we call the aperture, which is basically the hole that the firing pin sticks through. They come in different shapes. For projectiles or bullets, you may find class characteristics, obviously the caliber, but there will be what we call landing groove impressions, and there may be a certain number, and they may twist to the left or the right. These are general, and these are what we call class characteristics.
So class characteristics, are they unique to individual firearms?
Not unique to a firearm. They may be similar to a particular make and model. They'll all exhibit the same class or similar class characteristics, but the individual will be different. One way to think of it is 5 fingers is class characteristic, a fingerprint is individual.
So let's talk about individual characteristics then. It sounds like those are unique to individual firearms.
Yes, sir.
What kind of individual class or individual characteristics are possible to be found on ammunition?
When the firing pin, was it possible to use a demonstrative aid that I brought?
Sure. Do you think it would help the jury understand what you're talking about?
I do, sir.
All right. Yeah. Do you have one with you?
Yes, sir. If you understand the firing process of a cartridge, so this would be an unfired cartridge. Some people would call it ammo, brass, bullet. But basically the way this works, if it were in a firearm, if the firing pin was to strike this component back here that we call a primer, it's going to cause an explosion. That small explosion is going to enter a hole that's in the cartridge case, and it's going to ignite the third component, which is inside, called the gunpowder. Once that gunpowder combusts very rapidly, it's going to cause the projectile or bullet to enter and exit the barrel. And in semi-fire automatic firearms, it's going to cause it to extract and eject the cartridge case. These processes will leave marks on both the cartridge case and the bullet because they're much softer metals than the harder metals of the firearm. So we would find markings on the firing pin impression. We would find markings on what we call the breech face area, which is basically the back where it sits. We will find markings on the landing grooves of the bullets. These markings will be individual to that firearm.
How do you compare two different sets of markings?
We use what's called a comparison microscope. It's basically 2 microscopes that we can see through one set of eyepieces, where I could actually look at 2 items side by side and overlap them, hence comparison microscope. And what we are looking for to see if we can find agreement between markings or find these same markings between the 2.
Is there a metric or a standard number of markings that you look to compare between two different items of ammunition that you're comparing?
Not a number, sir. It's subjective. It's based on my training, education, experience. We use a term called sufficient agreement. However, after everything that an examiner looks at, a second qualified examiner will come behind them and look at the same evidence and see if they find the same conclusions.
So is it possible to determine whether 2 casings were fired or ejected from the same firearm?
Yes, sir, it is.
And is that through an analysis of those markings?
Yes, sir, it is.
Now, let me direct your attention to Crime Lab case number 19-06499. Did you have an occasion to analyze any items of evidence submitted from SAPD under that case number?
Yes, sir, I did.
When did you conduct that analysis?
On September 10th, 2019.
What did you analyze as a part of that?
3 fired cartridge cases,
What caliber were they?
45 auto.
Are they marked from SAPD when you received them?
They should be marked as in their packaging.
As in packaging?
Yes, sir. They'll have the case number and things of that nature on them.
May I use the well you're on?
Yes.
Right. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 7. Do you recognize this?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is it?
It's an envelope of evidence that was submitted to the laboratory.
Does that contain the case number that we were just talking about related to your analysis?
Yes, sir, it does.
And are you familiar with this envelope? Have you seen it before?
I have, sir.
Are any of your markings on this envelope?
Yes, sir.
Which mark?
We,
Don't judge.
oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Every case that comes into the laboratory gets a unique number we call the criminal investigation laboratory number. In that case, I would actually notate on the envelope, I would notate the date, my initials, and an item number that I'm going to assign it.
And is this the envelope that you worked with as a part of your analysis for this? I guess the analysis that you conducted on these casings.
Yes, sir, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, we offer exhibit number 7 for all purposes. Under defense counsel.
All right, state's exhibit number 7 is admitted without objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we publish?
Yes.
All right, now, sir, if you could show the jury what you were talking about before with the markings.
The CIL number, first, it's listed by the evidence receiving section. This is the number we assign it. 19-06499. I'll write that again. I'll put the date that I opened this envelope, my initials, and the item number that I'm going to call this envelope, which in this case is item 2.
Okay, and within this envelope, we've previously opened it in front of the jury. We've extracted exhibits numbers 8, 9, and 10. I'm going to publish them here so everyone can see. And let me know if you need me to bring it up if you're having trouble seeing it. But hopefully, so this is. Let's see. So this is stakes exhibit number 8. Are you able to see that up on the screen?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. What is contained in stakes exhibit number 8?
It is a Hornady 45 auto caliber cartridge case.
Okay. And was this one of the casings that you analyzed?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. And now stakes exhibit number 9, what are we looking at? The envelope, what does that contain according to its label?
Also a brand A USA, and it's a 45 auto caliber cartridge case.
All right. And this exhibit, we've already opened the contents. So we're looking here now. Is this one of the casings that you analyzed?
Appears to be, yes, sir. Yes,
let
it
me-
is. You might focus better though.
Well, let me just bring it up to you. May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And how do you know?
I'll write the item number in a Sharpie, and then after my examination, I'll actually scribe it into the cartridge case on another black Sharpie. And I'll have the CIL number that I spoke of, my initials, and the item number. And in this case, I assign this item 2-3.
Is that what you've, I know you're showing the jury, but just for the record, so that's those numbers that you were describing, those are contained on the contents of exhibit number 9?
Yes, sir. You just was out of focus on the screen.
Yes. And now in exhibit number 10, what is contained within exhibit number 10 according to the?
Also, another brand of A USA is the brand, 45 auto. It's a fire cartridge case.
All right, and exhibits 8 and 10 have not been opened before, so if you could, sir, if you would open those. We'll start, let's start with exhibit number 8, just go in numerical order. What do you have there, the contents of exhibit number 8?
It looks like a 45 caliber cartridge case, Hornady.
And have you performed an analysis on that cartridge case?
Appears so, yes.
And how do you know that you analyze that particular cartridge?
I have given it an item number of 2-1. And if you don't mind, I'm going to refer to my notes briefly. Yes, my markings are on this just as much as the other one, but this one is assigned a number of 2-1.
Okay, and this this casing that you've assigned it as 2-1, according to the envelope submitted by SAPD, what item of evidence is it from them?
It lists as a Hornady 45 auto.
And I'm sorry, which evidence number from them?
Oh, E1, sorry.
Now, if you could please open exhibit number 10.
Pick it up.
Yes, sir. What are the contents of exhibit number 10?
This is also a 45 auto caliber cartridge case. It's a brand AUSA, and it has my markings and an item number I assigned, which is 2-2.
And what, according to the packaging, what is the SAPD exhibit number or evidence item?
E2.
And lastly, the one that we took out originally that had already been opened was exhibit number 9, or the contents of exhibit number 9. What is the SAPD item number for that?
E13.
Okay, and you had previously said that you saw your markings on that casing as well.
Yes, sir.
So did you conduct an analysis on those 3 casings?
I did. Yes, sir.
And how did you conduct that analysis? What are the steps?
Once again, first we'll start with a comparison microscope, and we'll look at the class characteristics. If these are similar, we'll move on to more detailed analysis. If they're different, for example, let's say the firing pin was a rectangular shape on one and a circle on the other, well, they're obviously not from the same firearm, so we would stop our analysis. But when the class characteristics are similar, we'll move into the more individualistic individual characteristics, and we'll use a comparison microscope to compare between the two to see if we find sufficient agreement between those items.
So for this analysis, were you trying to match the casings to a particular gun?
Not a firearm. If I had a firearm, I would have test fired it and then compared the tests together and then compared them to the questioned evidence. In this case, I did not have a firearm to compare it to, so I was only looking at the cartridge cases themselves.
When you say that you didn't have a firearm to compare it to, did SAPD submit a firearm for this particular analysis?
Not to the laboratory, no, sir.
So did you analyze the class characteristics of those 3 casings?
I did, yes, sir.
And was there agreement between those 3 casings?
Yes, sir, there
Do
was.
you remember what the nature of the class characteristic agreement was? Like what markings did you see that?
Yes, particularly in the firing pin and also the area that we, so if you don't mind, the firing pin impression that we talked about. That's basically going to be a negative impression of the firing pin itself. Also, this back area here is what we call the breech face. This is an area that is basically the cartridge is sitting on, but more importantly, the aperture, which is basically the hole that the firing pin sticks through. When the weapon is actually fired, some of the metal will actually mold into there, and when it's extracted, injected, it'll scrape along the side of that, and it'll leave very strong parallel markings. Those are the main markings that we're going, it was called shear. Now we're going to be looking at those areas to see if we can find agreement between 2 separate items.
And I think you said after you find agreement for class characteristics, to move on to individual characteristics. Did you look for individual characteristics for these three cases?
Well, actually, what I was just describing is the individual. Well, once you look at the class, if they match, then we look more towards the individual. And so that's what we did.
Okay. And so was there agreement between the individual characteristics?
Yes, sir.
And what was your conclusion based on that?
That these three cartridge cases were fired in the same firearm.
Pass the witness, Judge.
No questions.
All right, is this witness excused or subject to recall?
Subject to recall by the state judge.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state and the defense. Please make sure you're available if you are recalled.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You may step down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I told you all that I would make sure that we stopped at 4:30 so you could avoid rush hour traffic. So if you all would like to stop now, we can recess now. We would come back tomorrow at 1:30 because I have docket in the morning. And we'll have basically all day on Wednesday. So I want to let you know on Wednesday, we'll be starting at 9:30 a.m. State, do you have another witness?
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
All right, so if you all would like, the state will call their next witness and we can continue, or either we can recess now. I'm sorry. All right, state, call your next witness.
State calls Mark Hernandez.
Judge, will we approach?
Yes.
This is going to be-
All right, so I believe that communication is key. So both the state and the defense are informing me that this witness.
Judge, will we approach?
Yes. I understand. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the court has been informed of. That the state's direct examination is probably going to take an hour. And then the defense will do their cross-examination. So if we proceed with this witness now, we'll probably be here probably 6:30, maybe 7. So if you all would like to discuss it and back amongst yourself, you're more than welcome to do that. Would you all like to do that? All right, remember the instructions I gave you all, okay? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.
Yes. Till tomorrow. I wasn't able to- Oh, yeah, that's right. I read that way. I went through this issue on our side of things. We did, sir. Yeah.
We're ready.
All right, for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, do you wish to continue? No. Okay. All right. Before I release you though, let me just have the state's witness come in so I can already swear him in. And that way, when we start tomorrow at 1:30, we'll be able to go right in. Yes. And state for the record, will you just call your next witness?
Yes, Mark Hernandez.
All right, Mr. Hernandez, if you'll come in, please. All right, and Mr. Hernandez, I'm going to swear you in. Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, if you can lower your name and lower your hand and state your name for the record.
Mark Hernandez.
All right, so Mr. Hernandez, if you'll just have a seat behind State's table. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to do any research or investigation. Everything that you need to know about this case has come from inside the courtroom. If you hear anything or see anything on social media or any type of media, ignore it. Does everyone understand? You're not allowed to start deliberating in your own mind or with each other. I'll let you know when it's time to deliberate. So we're going to start tomorrow at 1:30. The same instructions apply with regards to the parking garage. Now on Wednesday, we're going to start at 9:30. Everybody is in court no later than 9. So probably in order to get a parking space, you're going to have to probably show up at 8 or 8:30. You can bring your breakfast because we have a refrigerator in the back for you. Okay? Yes.
For bicycles to lock up anywhere?
You can lock up your bicycle on this side of the building. I think there are bike racks all around the courthouse. And I want to say there's one right at this courthouse on the right side. All right, is there anything else for me to cite? And then also, if there's a problem with locking up the bicycle, I'm sure we'll figure out a way to just bring it into the building and park it in the back something. Okay. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.